This is not Cairo or Islamabad. This is Florida, the Sunshine State, home of Mickey Mouse and spring break and some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And yet, right now, in the suburbs of Orlando, in the corridors of Tampa, in communities stretching from the Keys to the Panhandle, a radical Islamic movement is quietly, deliberately, methodically trying to plant its flag, trying to embed its law, trying to replace the Constitution of the United States with a legal system forged in the 7th century. They thought Florida would bow down. They thought the politicians would stay quiet. They thought the people wouldn't notice. Well, the governor noticed, the Florida legislature noticed, and what they just did about it is something you are not going to want to miss. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, I hear from patriots every single day who say that the news makes them feel anxious, confused, and overwhelmed. That ends today. Scan the QR code on screen and sign up for my free Patriot Alerts. Once a day, I'll hand you exactly what you need to know and what it means for your life. Think clearly and positively. Again, scan that QR code right now. It's known for its beautiful beaches and sunny weather, but increasingly, the state of Florida is being seen as a hotbed for the rise of radical Islam. The Muslim population in the Sunshine State has exploded in recent decades. Estimates now range from 127,000 on the conservative end to as high as 500,000, according to Community Insiders, served by over 150 mosques and Islamic centers stretching from the Florida Keys all the way up to Pensacola. Orlando alone saw its Muslim population rocket from roughly 2,700 in the year 2000 to over 27,000 by 2010, and it's kept climbing every year since. Tampa's Temple Terrace corridor has become so heavily concentrated that some estimates suggest up to 70% of local businesses are Muslim-owned, with Arabic signage lining the streets. As such, Florida's been a documented hotbed of radical Islamic activity. A former University of Florida student was convicted of attempting to provide material support for ISIS after trying to slip illegally into Syria. An Orlando man was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for lying to the FBI in connection with an ISIS investigation. A man who reportedly said on record, quote, "If Islam is terrorism, then, oh God, give me more of this terrorism until the day I die." Florida brothers Rais and Shehyar Kazi were arrested for conspiring to use a weapon of mass destruction in a planned New York City attack described by the FBI as Al-Qaeda inspired. This is not a theoretical threat. This is a documented, prosecuted, and sentenced threat. And as that population grows and as pro-Muslim organizations like CARE embed themselves deeper into the civic and legal infrastructure of the state, the question of whose law governs Florida becomes not academic, but existential. Governor Ron DeSantis saw it. The Florida legislature saw it. And on April 5th, they answered the question decisively. That answer was HB 1471, and it's bigger than even the headlines are letting on. The bill has two main pillars. First, it prohibits Florida courts, judges, and government agencies from ever applying, enforcing, or even considering any foreign legal system. And yes, that explicitly includes Sharia law in any Florida legal proceeding. If you're in a Florida courtroom, America law applies only, period, full stop. Second, and this is the part that the pro-Islam advocates like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, absolutely is melting down over. The bill empowers the governor of Florida to formally designate organizations as domestic or foreign terrorist groups, opening them up to civil liability, asset exposure, and a whole host of legal consequences. DeSantis signed it on April 5th, and he didn't stop there. Governor DeSantis also issued an executive order declaring both CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organizations. CARE was named as an unindicted co-conspirator, in the Holy Land Foundation case, the largest terrorism financing prosecution in American history. The United Arab Emirates have designated CAIR a terrorist organization. The FBI severed its formal ties with CAIR over a decade ago, and yet for years, the political and media establishment have treated CAIR as a legitimate civil rights organization, a respectable voice, a seat at the table, a phone call away from a White House meeting. Florida just changed that calculus permanently. But as it turns out, what's happening in Florida is just the beginning. Wait until you see this.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to Epic 2.0. Epic City is more than just a neighborhood. It's a way of life, a meticulously designed community that brings Islam to the forefront.
This is Josephine, Texas, a thriving suburb north of Dallas. And for the last several years, right under the nose of local officials, a radical Islamic organization has been quietly building what amounts to a self-contained parallel society, complete with its own mosque, its own Islamic school, its own medical clinic, and 74 homes sold exclusively to affiliated Muslims. A Muslim-only enclave right here in the United States of America. They called it Epic City, but Texans called it something else. And then they did something about it. The planned city was shut down by the combined force of Governor Abbott, Attorney General Paxton, 12 state agencies, and a HUD fair housing investigation. Texas Republican primary voters then went to the ballot box and voted 95% in favor of banning Sharia law from Texas courts. And it's not just Texas. Lawmakers in Arizona have moved to explicitly ban Sharia law recognition in their state courts, and President Trump has designated the Muslim Brotherhood officially a terrorist organization. So we can see a very clear pattern here from the White House, Texas, Arizona, now Florida. These are not isolated events. This is a pattern. This is a movement. Red state America is waking up to the same reality that ordinary Europeans have been screaming about for 20 years. A reality the political establishment ignored, ridiculed, and suppressed. All the while, foreign parallel legal structures quietly embedded themselves in Western societies. The French saw it, the Germans saw it, the Dutch saw it, and now Americans are seeing it too. Not through the filter of the legacy media, but with their own eyes, in their own communities, in their own courtrooms. And what is the establishment's response to these concerns? Well, the same it's always been. Demagoguery, denigration, accusations of Islamophobia, bigotry, racism, hate. But here's what they can't argue away. You cannot simultaneously claim to be a civil rights organization, all the while your founding organization was named in the largest terrorism financing case in American history. You cannot demand inclusion in American civic life while advocating for a legal system that is explicitly incompatible with the United States Constitution. You can't have it both ways. And Florida, under Ron DeSantis, just made that crystal clear. In fact, DeSantis himself said at the signing, we cannot let America become Europe. And he's right. Because Europe didn't lose its civilization one dramatic moment. It lost it inch by inch, year by year, apology by apology, until entire neighborhoods in Paris and London and Stockholm became no-go zones where Western law was, for all practical purposes, rendered obsolete. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented reality. And the same incrementalism that transformed European cities is what Epic City was attempting in Collin County, and what HB 1471 is designed to stop before it metastasizes in Florida. Bottom line, what just happened in Florida is not a culture war story. It's not a religious discrimination story. It is a sovereignty story. It is a story of an American state looking at what happened to the West quietly, incrementally, deliberately, and saying, not here, not in our courts, not under our flag, not on Florida soil. Governor DeSantis acted. The Florida legislature passed it. And every single patron in the country is now paying attention because what Texas started and Florida just reinforced is becoming the template. History does not reward the hesitant. It rewards those who understood the moment and acted. The great red state of Florida understood this, and they delivered.